The Democrat National Committee Convention is over. So let's talk about it on this episode of the Driving with Rob podcast. The presidential election for 2024 is going to be held in just a few more weeks. So the Democrats have pulled out all the stops to try to beat Trump in the upcoming election. And I watched every night of the Republican convention, but I only watched bits and pieces of the Democrat National Convention. I wanted to watch the first night because Joe Biden was going to speak. Joe Biden, the sitting president, was relegated to Monday night. They put him on Monday night. The least desirable night of a 4-day convention to speak is the first night, because it's just like the Republican convention. It's supposed to build and build and build until the finale on Thursday night, where the nominee actually accepts the nomination and makes a speech about what their plans are for the future. This is where the presidential election campaign really begins in earnest, is after both of the nominees give their speeches, because this is where they outline what their plan is. Here's what I plan to do for the country. Here's what I plan to do for the American people if elected president. So let's start with Monday night. Monday night, I watched it because I wanted to see if Joe, knowing that he's a lame duck president, that he is really probably not even going to be on TV, let alone in front of a crowd that size, ever again. I would doubt seriously that we even see Joe Biden on TV until January 20th. Unless Kamala wins, then you'll see him and her on the podium together. But I was really hoping that Joe would unload on his enemies and finally tell the truth. At least a little bit of truth about how the Democrat leadership forced him out of office. The rumor is that the straw that broke the camel's back that finally got Joe to pull out of the race was Nancy Pelosi saying to him, "If you don't pull out of the race, I will go public and start trashing you." I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that's what I heard. That was the rumor that was going around, that Nancy Pelosi was going to publicly attack Joe Biden if he didn't pull out of the race. And I'm sure he was approached by Barack Obama and other leaders, probably Schumer, other leaders of the Democrat Party, to say, we can't win in November if you run against Trump. So they forced him out. But I heard that Pelosi was the one that really, really leaned on him, that said she was going to go public and criticize him publicly if he didn't pull out. Because the whole thing with the Democrats being in control of the White House, being in control of Congress, wanting to be in control of everything in Washington, is all about power. Winning at all costs so we can hold on to power. And if Joe ran, they were going to lose that power. So they had to get Joe to resign because legally they couldn't just take over. Constitutionally, Joe had to say, "I choose not to run." So they pressured Joe. But when push came to shove, Joe did not come out and tell the truth about his enemies. Pelosi, Schumer, Barack, all those people. He didn't tell the truth about his enemies. He attacked the Republicans instead. Loyal Democrat to the very end, in spite of the fact that they threw him under the bus. So I did want to see Monday night because I was really hoping, in front of a live audience with tens of thousands of people, this was Joe's opportunity to stick it to his enemies. Because Joe, if you look at the old videos from when Joe Biden was a young man, Joe has always been angry. Joe has always been one to rant and rave and wave his arms and get out of hand. That's the reason he failed in 2 previous presidential runs. That's why nobody wanted to elect him president ever. Because he looked a little unhinged. He looked a little crazy. Even when he was a young man. And I think now, with his cognitive decline, I don't think he's mentally sharp enough to run the country. I didn't think he was mentally sharp enough in 2020, but apparently a lot of people did. So in subsequent nights of the convention, Michelle and Barack spoke. Bill Clinton spoke. Hillary Clinton spoke. AOC spoke. Oprah Winfrey spoke. And if you'll remember, 30 years ago, Oprah Winfrey told Donald Trump he should run for president. And Oprah liked him back then. But once he ran for president as a Republican, all of a sudden she didn't like him. Which again just proves what a partisan hack she is too. But then last night, Kamala herself spoke. And they hyped it up. And the excitement building and building and building until the finale, the last speaker on Thursday night. All the news media said this would be the most important speech of her political career. And it was just as lackluster and non-specific as any speech she has ever given. We have to support Israel, but we also have to support the Palestinians. Okay. So you have no stance on the Israeli-Hamas war. So she didn't take a stance on that. I'm going to make it a priority to lower inflation and lower the prices at the pump at the grocery store. You're in power now. You haven't done anything in 3.5 years. Joe Biden hasn't done anything to help us in 3.5 years. As a matter of fact, the whole Biden-Harris administration took a good economy and destroyed it. Took the strong standing that we had on the world stage and weakened it. Every decision they made was the wrong one. But if you elect her, she's going to change all that. And you know, honestly, what it reminded me of, what it made me think of, is that scene in Brother, Where Art Thou? Where Homer Stokes is running against Pass the Biscuits O'Daniel, the current governor of the great state of Mississippi. And his son said, Homer Stokes is running on reform. Maybe we should run on reform. And Pappy O'Daniel hits him with his hat and he said, we're the incumbents. We can't run on reform. Well, is that not what Kamala is trying to do? She's trying to tell people that she is going to make things better. She is going to run on a reform platform. She is going to run on reform. Well, you are part of the administration that made it bad in the first place. How can we trust you to reform it and make it better? But anyway, this is what she had to say, and it's the same circular logic, the same circular arguments that Kamala has made in every speech she's ever made, okay? Okay. Tomorrow will be today, and today will be yesterday. I mean, this is the kind of crap that she says. It means nothing. It has never meant anything. She has no more clue how to run the country than the man in the moon. But she wants your vote. But look at the whole convention, the whole Democrat convention. Nobody who spoke gave any kind of plan as to what they want to do. It was all happy, happy, joy, joy, aren't we all excited? To have somebody that we can cast our vote for without being ashamed to admit it, which is what they had with Joe. We can cast our vote for Kamala in good conscience and not feel bad about it. But yeah, you should feel bad about it. Because she's horrible and as incapable of making national, global decisions. She can't do it. I don't trust her to pick my breakfast menu. I don't trust her to make me a sandwich. Because I'm sure she'll do it wrong. And I feel the same way about a Kamala Harris presidency. And the thing is, the Trump administration, it's not a slam dunk. Trump doesn't automatically win because Kamala's horrible. Because just like Hillary Clinton said in her speech, it doesn't matter what she plans to do. All that really matters is putting a woman in the White House for the first time. Which was pretty much Hillary's campaign slogan. We got to shatter that glass ceiling. No. We need to try to improve the economy to make it better for all American citizens. We need to keep close tabs on all our enemies so that we're not attacked, so that we don't have another plane flying into a high-rise office building full of people. We need to make sure that the Chinese aren't trying to take over our economy by flooding our country with substandard products and forcing our companies out of business because they can't sell things that cheap. But what you heard during the whole Democrat convention, happy, happy, joy, joy. Aren't we excited? Look at the excitement that we didn't have a month ago when we thought Joe was going to be the nominee. There is still no plan to do anything to help the American people. It's all about staying in power. Everything they've accused Donald Trump of, or everything they have said Donald Trump will do, they're already doing. Oh, if Trump gets in, he'll do anything he can to stay in power. Like try to get his opponents taken off the ballot. Like trying to have his opponents thrown in jail. That kind of stuff. You're already doing it, dude. And the media never calls them on it. And speaking of the media, and I'll wrap up with this. Speaking of the media, everybody at CBS, NBC, ABC was just giddy after Wednesday night because Hillary spoke. Bill Clinton spoke. Both of the Obamas spoke. Tim Walz spoke. And everybody was so pumped and so excited and so happy. And when I watched the commentary after Thursday night, after Kamala's speech, it was very subdued. Because there was nothing in her speech that would make anybody say, yay, let's go vote for Kamala. She didn't say anything. She didn't really say anything because she really didn't have anything to say. She has no plan. She has no vision. She has no goals for the country. It's all about staying in power and keeping Donald Trump out of power. That's all it was about. And I was watching the post-convention commentary on CBS, and all of these people who have been just strong Kamala Harris supporters struggled to say anything positive about her speech, struggled to find hope in anything she said, struggled to find anything that would make you say, yes, she can definitely beat Donald Trump. No, it was very disappointing, I think, for all these press people who really wanted Kamala's speech to be the turning point, to be the cherry on top, to be the crowning speech of the week that would propel her into the next several weeks before the election. And it just didn't. It just fell flat. And it's because she has no plan. She has no vision. She has no ideology really to speak of. Vote for me because I want to be president. I mean, that was basically her whole thing. We have to keep Donald Trump out, so I'm your only choice. That was really all Kamala had in her whole speech. It was nothing. But this election is Trump's to lose. And I'll give you my 2 cents on that. If Trump's whole campaign ends up being personal attacks and making fun of Tim Walz and making fun of Kamala and making jokes about him, then Trump's going to lose. But if he keeps the subdued rhetoric going, kind of like he had right after the assassination attempt, kind of like he had at the Republican convention. Just give us the facts. Remind everybody of the failed policies and failed decisions, and tell us what you plan to do to make it better. If he does that, he wins in a landslide, in my opinion. But if he keeps up the personal attacks, and there are plenty of personal attacks that can be made, but if he keeps doing that, he's going to lose. He's going to lose. And you think the economy is bad now. You think there's chaos throughout the free world now. Wait till Kamala Harris becomes president. And that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. I appreciate you downloading. I appreciate you listening. Tell your friends you can find the Driving with Rob podcast anywhere you go to listen to podcasts. Just Google it. And thanks again for listening. I'll talk to you next time. Bye now.